Hey, it's Friday night in East Lansing. Jim Comparoni, publisher, SpartanMag.com. Come on in, file in, gather around, grab a beverage, sit down, behave yourselves, find your assigned seat, grab a number 2 pencil. Let's talk some Michigan State sports. We do this every Friday night right now. We used to do it on a Monday. We're doing it Fridays now. We appreciate all the people that have come in and supported this live podcast, VCast, chat. It's a lot of things, and it's a lot of fun here from East Lansing, Michigan. If you're not familiar with SpartanMag.com, it's the Michigan State site on Rivals.com. The Michigan State site has been that way since the late 1990s, and I've been fortunate enough to have a job covering Michigan State for all the Maggers out there. We really love the Maggers and appreciate them. They've allowed us, myself, Paul Konerdijk, to make a living doing this. We appreciate those guys. So tell us what you're drinking tonight, what your refreshment of choice is. We've got questions that were posted over at the Underground Bunker message board over at SpartanMag.com. SpartanMag.com is the church of what's happening now in Michigan State sports. The Underground Bunker is the daily narrative. Anything that's going on related to Michigan State sports, you will find it at the Underground Bunker message board with a lot of astute Michigan State fans commenting about the day's happenings, maybe old days happenings, and I chime in as well and try not to make a fool out of myself. Sometimes I succeed at that, sometimes not, but that's part of the fun. Anyway, come on in. We've got some questions. Over at the Underground Bunker message board, Michigan State fans have posted questions. I've got about 10 or 12 of those, including some from last week that I did not get to. And also in the meantime, feel free to go ahead and post questions here at in the chat area, and we get to those as well. Going to have some fun with some new things going on tonight. We look forward to it. Hope the microphone is doing well. I think some people gave me some thumbs up already on that. We appreciate that. And like Tyler Miller just said, if you're not already a subscriber to the YouTube channel here at Spartan Mag, click on that, become a subscriber, give us a thumbs up. That helps get the word out, helps this particular edition to be broadcast further, brings in more Spartan fans, brings in more friends to be made, more subscribers, helps us as we cover Michigan State sports for you, especially football, basketball, and recruiting. And all the questions tonight will deal with football, and mostly football and recruiting, a little bit of basketball recruiting. I think I saw a question pertaining to basketball recruiting on the list as well. All right, let's get to the first question, then we'll get a little bit of chit-chat. First question from Marlo, good long subscriber and poster over at SpartanMag.com. Someone that I've had some friendly disagreements with over the years, and among other things, he thought it was time for a coaching change a long time ago, and they got the coaching change now, and having seen the 2019 season come and go, I don't disagree with him that it was time for a change. I wasn't ready to get on that way of thinking just yet, but as it turned out, I think Marlo had a good point there, as a lot of you did also, but Mark Dantonio did a great job. Mark Dantonio, great job in his 13 years at Michigan State, with a few things that might have gone a little bit differently here and there, health-wise, and some other things. I think he could have had another 10-win season this past season, maybe the year before, but that's a different conversation for a different time. Marlo from Grand Rapids asks, which commitments, talking about current Michigan State football commitments, which commitments do you see that would have climbed in the rankings and benefited from the camps this summer, if there had been camps this summer? He says, it's been 6 months since their latest film, their junior film. Who do you think would be shining and preparing for breakout senior years coming into this season? He says outside of Charles Brantley, you've been clear on him. Charles Brantley, the guy from Venice, Florida, committed to Michigan State a couple weeks ago. 3-star, but I think he's a 4-star talent. Excellent corner. So he's saying other than him, other than Brantley, who do I think would have stood out, and as he says, would have climbed in the rankings benefiting from the t-shirt camps? And sometimes it's not just the t-shirt camps. Like Joe Bocci, for instance, was a 2-star recruit, came to Michigan State's camp, and Josh Helmholtz was there. Bocci was a commitment. Josh took a look at him, liked what he saw at the Michigan State camp, elevated him to a 3-star recruit at that point. Even though Bocce didn't go to the Rivals camp or any of the other camps, he moved up to 3-star based on his performance at the Michigan State camp. But by and large, it's the t-shirt camps that help enable players to rise or fall in the rankings. So to answer your questions, looking at Michigan State's 11 commitments to this point, I would, the guy I like is Gabe Neely, the corner from Miami. At 6'3.5", 6'4", change of direction is uncommon for his frame. Rivals.com had a camp in Miami February 8th. Gabe Neely was not there. If he had been there, I don't know if he'd have become a 4-star, but he would have been out there in front of some interesting onlookers and maybe increased. I think he might be a 5.6 3-star right now. Maybe he'd move up to a 5.7. But I think Gabe Neely, for people that are patient enough to take a long look at him, there are some uncommon traits there. Now that's just me looking at him. That's just my opinion. Others might not be as bullish, but I think Gabe Neely is underrated as a 3-star. Now I'm saying that as on junior film as a prospect. I mean, he could go to college and things might not work out. That happens all the time with 4-star talents going in college and things not panning out. But I like him as someone who could have done more with the camps. I think Hampton Fay, the quarterback, injured a little bit of it during his junior year, quite a bit of his junior year. With his size, good release, his arm is pretty good. I've heard some people say it's not great, but I think it's pretty good. His decision making on film is great, and really, really good decision making. I don't know if that decision making shows itself in the t-shirt camps as well as it does in a game film, because you're dealing with receivers and cover. There's just man-to-man. There's no zone, so you don't have to really read coverages. You're dealing with receivers. You might not be on the same page. They'll signal what route to run, try to hide it from the defense. And so the cerebral part of it doesn't always show up, and I think that's one of the strengths for Hampton Fay. But with his size and release, I think there's a chance he might have moved up, maybe 4-star at other sites, because it's easier to be a 4-star at other sites, maybe a higher 3-star at Rivals.com. Some of the people that I wanted to see, Tyson Watson, the defensive end from Warren Mott, would have liked to have seen him run the hoop at the t-shirt camps. He plays a 5 technique on film, does a really good job of it. He's physical, he's firm. Don't get a chance to really see him rush the edge in the film, the high school film thus far. Would have liked to have seen him do that at the t-shirt camps, because that's for the defensive ends, all they're doing is pass rush. They're not playing the run at all, obviously, because there are no running plays. They're not in pads. I would have liked to have seen what Watson had to offer as an edge athlete. I don't expect him to be a great edge athlete, but if he did, I'd be like, wow, check another box. So I'm not sure there. Ethan Boyd, the offensive tackle from East Lansing. I would have liked to have seen him against those edge rushers at the t-shirt camps. And he's like ranked number 24 in the state of Michigan right now by Rivals.com. I think that, if he had gone up against some 4-star edge rushers and done a good job against them, and even if he didn't, even if he just stalemated once or twice or, gave as good as he got, I think there's a chance he could have moved up into the Michigan top 15. 4-star, probably not. Doubt it, because he was just a 2-star under the radar not long ago. But those are some guys I would have liked to have seen. Derek Harmon, the big defensive tackle from Detroit. He's an interior guy, so the t-shirt camps, that's not going to be his bag. I'm not sure people there would have recognized, what an interior defensive tackle needs to be at a t-shirt camp, because it's all pass rush. You don't get a chance to really two-gap people and play the run. I would have liked to have seen him move a little bit more in his development. The running back from Oak Park, Davion Prim, the t-shirt camps don't really showcase what running backs can do a whole lot. Sometimes they can show what they can do as a slot receiver, maybe check the box in terms of hands, but t-shirt camps, you're not going to make people miss and break tackles because there's no tackling. Wigington, the offensive lineman from out east, I'd have liked to have seen improved quickness from him. I thought his junior film had has some potential to it. There's some more film that has come out on him this spring, underground, where he's shown more quickness. I would have liked to have seen more of that slope of improvement, put him out there in the t-shirt camps against those edge rushers. But again, I'm not sure he would have upped his he would have been in a position to increase his ranking. I think Hampton Fay, Gabe Neely are the ones that maybe could have become top shelf 3 stars, and then I think Ethan Boyd is a guy that could have become a medium 3 star or a little bit better. That's my answer on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and tweet to invite more people here. I'll do that right there. So that's up right now. That'll bring in some more riffraff. We'll see how those guys do. Appreciate everybody being here, part of the Spartan Mag Live podcast, and for coming, a lot of you guys, week after week. Really appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys, those of you that are subscribers at SpartanMag.com. Appreciate the work that Paul Konerdijk does. Corey Robinson doing a great job covering Michigan State football recruiting. A great job breaking a lot of scoops. Excellent reporter. If you've missed it, if you're a Spartan Mag subscriber, you can check out the Recruiting Wrap podcast with Corey Robinson and I. Recorded that last night. Went about an hour. Talked about 5 or 6 recruiting targets. Had a lot of fun doing that. Thanks, Corey, for helping us out with that. Let's go back to the mailbag. Then we'll get into some other stuff. This is from MSU Pat. He didn't say where he was posting from, so we'll just say from parts unknown. Now, these are questions. These initial questions are questions from last week that I didn't get a chance to answer because I cut it off at about 10 or 12 questions usually. So some of these are in relation to some topics that are more than a week old. MSU Pat says, can you share any more insight into your conversation with Herb Haygood and Michigan State recruiting in Florida? How does he feel the former players on the Gulf Coast can help increase the Florida pipeline? Also, I know you mentioned Mel Tucker has already had calls with former Michigan State players. Is this becoming an expanded avenue for identifying prospects in Florida and other places? Seems like I have read more stories about prospects with MSU connections. You're exactly right. I think I might have actually mentioned this last week. I can't remember, but I guess I'll keep it short. Yeah, Mel Tucker has reached out to former players. I think he's had at least 2 Zoom sessions. Actually, I think he had a Facebook Live session with dozens and dozens of former players, maybe over 100, maybe 200 former players, and told them, from what I understand, he told them, former players, you're part of this program. Anytime you're around, let us know. Come in, come see us. We'll be happy to see you, happy to meet you if we haven't met you before. And you are a resource. If you know of a player anywhere, if you're out watching games and you see somebody that's interesting, or if you've got, a nephew or a son, we will take a look at him. And that's what Mel Tucker is. It was brought to his attention that Ulish Booker had a son. Was it a son or a nephew? Someone can tell me. He had an offer from LSU. The previous staff took a look at him, but wasn't really recruiting him full blast or all that seriously. Mel Tucker found out about him, wrote down the name, and was on it. And within 2 weeks, nephew, thanks Nils. Within 2 weeks, that player, Ulish Booker's nephew, had an offer. Ulish Booker, of course, offensive lineman from Michigan State in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, from Connecticut, I think. Anyway, that was Exhibit A. I mean, it happened with Herb Haygood's nephew, Brantley. They liked him. Barnett liked Brantley a lot. When Barnett was at Florida State, Herb Haygood brought it to their attention. Hey, that's my nephew. Actually, it's Herb's second cousin, but as Herb told me, they've been so close over the years. He's like a brother to Brantley's father. So Chuck Brantley has always looked up to Herb Haygood as an uncle and calls him Unc, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, that is a resource. Now, each year you only have 20 to 25 recruiting slots, so it's not like you can fill up on legacies over and over and over, but they will not overlook that part of it. That is a big part of it. Herb Haygood, when I was talking to him on the phone, and I wrote an article about it, a couple of articles about it at SpartanMag.com 2 weeks ago, Haygood really bullish on Michigan State's chances of recruiting in the state of Florida, and as he says, rebuilding a pipeline specifically to that Sarasota area. Mark Dantonio had great success at Michigan State, didn't do a lot of recruiting in Florida. He had Jarris Jones and a handful of others, not many, and did well without it. Mel Tucker wants to do more in Florida. Harlan Barnett, having been in there for 2.5 years, has some contacts down there. Herb Haygood has a lot of contacts down there, even though he lives in the Ypsilanti area. And, you know, Herb was telling me, and I'd heard about this from Big Movie Ron Armstrong also, that, you know, there's some Michigan State former players down there, Jason Bradley, Marcus Waters, two guys that didn't finish their career at Michigan State but still consider themselves diehard Michigan State supporters. You know, he talked about Luke Bensey, Cedric Henry, and a few others. And as Herb says, a lot of those guys have been down there watching Michigan State's rise under Mark Dantonio and excited about it and waiting to help in some way. And now those buttons are going to be pushed, and you're going to see Michigan State become more of a factor down there. And they've already been a factor with Gabe Neely in Miami and Brantley, of course, in Venice and the Sarasota area. Gabe Neely, with his attraction to Michigan State, didn't necessarily have anything to do with the former Michigan State players along the Gulf Coast. It was a Harlan Barnett thing. But now that Gabe Neely is committed, I mean, you can see him on social media. He's really fanning the flames to try to help Michigan State recruiting. And we talked about Michigan State recruiting last night on the recruiting wrap. Michigan State number 24 in the country right now in the recruiting rankings. An excellent showing thus far for Mel Tucker since he's been on the job for only 5 months and only had about 8 days, an 8-day window to have players on campus to visit. Within those 8 days, he had Hampton Fay on campus, had Andrell Anthony on campus, and I think Ethan Boyd as well. All right, let's move on here. Anyway, yeah, go ahead and put some questions over there in the chat area. We will get to them. Also, hey, some of you guys posted you want to see a little bit of this. Cape May Vineyards, the CM3. We talked about it last week. David Simpson, former Michigan State offensive lineman from the George Perlis era. His family, his wife's family is involved with this vineyard. Excellent place. Look it up. Cape May Winery, the south tip of Jersey Shore. Beautiful looking place. I've not been there, but I tell you what, my wife and her friend, we travel a lot. Not a lot, but here and there. They're wine enthusiasts. They were checking it out, and it's a place we want to go. Don't judge me by the screw pull, right? Don't judge me by the screw pull. That was sloppy with the shirt. I apologize for that. We are, we're casual here. Primitive. Open it up. I'm going to pour it. Don't worry, Dave. I'm going to wait 30 minutes. I really apologize about the shirt situation. I've got the... no, I don't have a red wine glass. Don't judge me on that either. But it is a glass celebrating Lake Michigan, which is still number 2 in my Great Lakes Power Rankings. All right, we are 18 minutes into the VCast. We will we'll test that in about 30 minutes. Let's go back to the mailbag. Sorry about that t-shirt thing. That was awkward. Brian from Flushing, Michigan says, what are your current thoughts on our chances of landing Trigg, the tight end from Florida? You spoke of him last week on the YouTube Live a little bit. Just wondering what your current take on him is and where Michigan State stands after an offer was extended. Okay, he's talking about Michael Trigg. He's a 4-star tight end from Seffner, Florida. Seffner Christian Academy, ranked the number 39 player in Florida. You know, nothing new on him. I'll have to talk to some sources on that one. Herb Haygood knows him, knows his coach. Chuck Brantley is good friends with him. That is the in there, and they're going to be selling Michigan State pretty hard. Florida State is seen as the leader. So that one, I've heard no indications that that one is going to wrap up anytime soon, but I'll be looking into that one for you. But, hey, Michigan State's going to get in there. If Michigan State can pull 2 4-stars out of Florida this year in Mel Tucker's first 10 months on the job, that would definitely be quite a ripple in the Big Ten recruiting circles. Question number 4, C. Brian from Austin, Texas via Flushing, Michigan. Another one from Flushing. Comp. On controversial items, you typically espouse remind me later and I'll tell you more. And then later never comes and you never tell us anything else. Smiley face. That's fair. Okay, so he says, and that is a habit that I have. Sometimes in recruiting or other things, you hear things that aren't quite ready for public consumption, and I say, man, there's something more I could tell you about this, but I got it about Drew Costello, someone who doesn't exist, and remind me in 18 months and I'll tell you. And then a lot of times people will be like, hey man, what's that story about Drew Costello? And sometimes I won't remember what the story is. I apologize. And sometimes I just flat out never get around to it. Sometimes I'm still protecting the innocent. All right. So anyway, that's the background of that. So he says, C. Brian says, Jim, let's start unveiling at least one item from the past in those sessions, or in these sessions. He says, may I suggest tonight, what is the inside scoop on how and what Mark Dantonio and Mark Hollis said and worked with Jim Delaney regarding the Big Ten suspension of Narduzzi when Pat said, football is 60 minutes of necessary roughness after beating Michigan. And then he says, Delaney was awful for Michigan State. Did Luana, Simon, or Hollis ever stand up and go toe-to-toe with that bully on anything? And that's the end of that question. Sadly, I've got no inside information on what went on during the Narduzzi suspension. Suspended for saying, he wants 60 minutes of unnecessary roughness. I suspect that David Brandon had a lot to do with that. I suspect David Brandon called foul. I don't know that for sure. So David Brandon, if that's not true, I apologize, but not really, because you did a lot of other things that made you one of the all-time twits in the history of the Big Ten. And I'll tweet that in a minute, as a matter of fact. Dave Brandon. Well, Michigan figured that out sooner enough and got rid of him. But I think Brandon was the one who had his feelings hurt about that one. As far as what Narduzzi said that night after they beat Michigan, they had a couple of personal foul penalties, unnecessary roughness. And Narduzzi, I think, was misunderstood a little bit with that comment, but he never apologized for it, I don't think. Maybe he had to officially. But, he's talking about unnecessary roughness. His quote and his in my opinion, the way I took it, his statement was, unnecessary roughness, the whole sport of football is unnecessary roughness. And that's what he wants, is unnecessary roughness. He was not saying that he actually wanted personal fouls. Now, he has said in the past that he wanted pass interference flags once in a while because he wanted his players on the edge. But in terms of actual personal fouls to the point of borderline dirty or plays that could result in injury, I never saw Narduzzi say that he wanted that, nor did I get that feeling. Now, if you look at that quote in black and white, what I want is 60 minutes of unnecessary roughness, I guess I can see why Brandon would have his feelings hurt about that and go whining with his thumb in his mouth to Delaney. And Delaney patting him on the head and said, that's okay, David. We'll make sure that Narduzzi's going to have to sit out a week or something. So I can see why those twits responded that way. But when Narduzzi said it, I thought he was just talking about the entire sport of football as unnecessary roughness. But anyway, in terms of, I do think that there was a lot of things going on there. I wondered if Dantonio and Narduzzi were disappointed that Hollis came out and made a statement agreeing with the Big Ten. I thought that was a little bit, did they have to do that in order to avoid a 2-game suspension? I don't know. But I suspect you're right that if it had been Purdue, it wouldn't have happened. There, my microphone's back on. I talked about the microphone last week. Give me a thumbs up. Is the audio okay? How are we doing on audio? Then we got a question from Molson44 here in a second. By the way, this wine, it's like 3 feet away and I can smell it. And I told you about my nose situation a couple weeks ago. It's a blessing and a curse, usually a curse. Thanks Tyler Miller with the thumbs up. I've got like a subhuman sense of smell. I'm a bloodhound. It's scary. I freak people out. Speaking of which, beautiful day in the state of Michigan today. in mid-Michigan. I know spring has sprung in Georgia, Florida, Texas 6 weeks ago, and we've had some warm days here and there. But today was the first warm day. Sun came out after some early showers, a humid day, like 76 degrees probably, and spring has really sprung. My nose likes that because out there it smells like a dryer. You know when a dryer smells real good? When we have clean laundry? That laundry's trying to smell like flowers. And right now, for about a 2-week period of time, it's pleasant. There's other times when my sense of smell, I smell things I don't want to smell. Whoa, yeah. It's going to be robust. That's Cabernet, Syrah, and Merlot, I think. Yes. 1/3 each. Be a great blend. Looking forward to it. I've got another 20 minutes to let that sit, and I tell you what, that's looking forward to that. Thanks, Dave. Thanks to the people at Cape May Wineries. All right, Molson44 from Mars says, during the stay-at-home order, have you been relentless on completing your wife's honey-do list? It's kind of personal. Relentless. I've been a C+ student in that area. There's some small trees I've got to trim, some hedges I've got to get to, but I could do better in that area. Thanks for checking. Question number 6 from Spartoons89. Who do you think our second running back recruit will be this year? Michigan State has Prim, the guy from Oak Park, and Michigan State is in on some 4-star talent to complement the running back recruiting situation for this year. They're in on Donovan Warren from West Bloomfield. Big timer, top 200 guy. Another 4-star, Audric Esteem, 5'11", 210 from Montvale, New Jersey. I'm not 100% sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Got to look into that a little bit more. Rutgers going after him real hard. Schiano's done a good job recruiting out there in New Jersey. That's what he was hired to do. And Rutgers has a top 20 recruiting class right now. Doing a good job with that. And we talked about that in the recruiting wrap last night, that there's a lot of teams in the top 20 right now, recruiting-wise, and I know it's early. A lot of the heavyweights will be filling in their classes later, but there's a lot of classes, a lot of programs out there that have like a first-year coach or a second-year coach. And I was reading some comments coming in right there. Anyway, first-year coaches and second-year coaches that are recruiting really well right now. You look at Maryland, Rutgers, Ohio State's a second-year coach. Don't forget that. Michigan State, number 24, not bad. Tennessee, North Carolina. Tennessee and North Carolina are they're kind of crashing the top 10 recruiting party right now. Iowa is the outlier. Iowa's in the top 10. I don't remember Iowa ever having a top 10 class or being in the top 10 at any point in a recruiting period. They're there this year. I'm not sure. I've not really looked into why that's happening. Their coach, Ferentz, done a great job. Has been there for a long time. He's not part of what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is new coaches doing well in the current quarantine recruiting era. In order to recruit well right now, you've got to be really good with the FaceTime, on a screen, with the Zoom, the virtual visits, those things. You have to be good with those because there were no visits in the spring. There's going to be no visits in the summer. I think the NCAA called them off until basically July. So it's all about right here. And the coaches that are good with this, doesn't surprise me that it's first and second year coaches of any age. Matt Brown is an older guy. Schiano is an older guy. But when you're a new coach at a new system, you're going to have new energy with new assistant coaches. They're going to be energized. Also, when there's a new coach, there's always a new coat of paint. And they look into things that they need to do better. And if they are similar to what Michigan State did, Mel Tucker came in and said, we have to do more on social media. Recruiting, social media. So that was the plan anyway. And those engines and gears were in place. Quarantine hits, and Michigan State's been able to, I think that those things have helped Michigan State get off to a real nice recruiting start. As great as Dantonio was, I'm not sure, I can say pretty confidently, he wouldn't have made a real good transition to this style of recruiting at this time. Secondly, he was more of a in the Midwest, in the state of Michigan type of recruiter, and then if they didn't get what they needed in that area, then they would expand out. Mel Tucker's looking to expand out anywhere, in all directions, at all times. So, and Tucker's been able to get to get a lot of interest, with players that haven't even visited. And that's the way recruiting is right now. People are committing to various schools without having visited. Then when recruiting visits open back up, which I assume is going to happen in the fall at some time, when that happens, then you might see recruitments open back up, and we'll be back in this medium talking about it some more. But first-year coaches doing a good job, and not all of them, but in the top 20, there's 4 or 5 of them first, second year, third year coaches. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think those are the coaches that were ready to hit the ground running. They weren't anticipating this would be the case, but they've done a good job with it. Meanwhile, Alabama is conspicuously absent in terms of the high rankings. Now, there's a lot of 5 stars that have not committed yet. I'm sure Alabama will answer the bell and get their players when the time comes. All right, as far as running backs go, Donovan Warren, Esteem from New Jersey, Logan Diggs, a 3-star from Louisiana. Michigan State's getting some traction in Louisiana. Let's see. Talked about Grigsby last night. Defensive back from Louisiana they're going to have a good shot with. New offer for running back Kyrie Young out of Akron, Bookville High School, 6'2", 210, big back. Michigan State just now offered. I'm not sure why Michigan State held off on offering. Not sure what was going on there. He's ranked the number 11 player in Ohio. Ohio State is pretty much full at running back. LSU just got a commitment from a Cincinnati guy, and I think Kyrie Young was interested in LSU. A lot of indications that Michigan State, with this offer, moves into good position for Kyrie Young. Kentucky's been recruiting him hard. Michigan State just needs one more running back. Josh Hemholt had a story on Rivals.com, SpartanMag.com on the front a couple days ago about another running back, Justin Johnson, 4-star top 250 national kid out of Edwardsville, Illinois. Michigan State's in on him. Michigan State had offered Anthony Tyus a long time ago from Portage, Michigan. Not hearing much about that one anymore. Michigan State they got Prim, and now they're looking national for the second running back. So, as good as Johnson is, it's my understanding that he might not be at the very top of the wish list. You're talking about a top 250 4-star. Michigan State's been in contact with him, but I think Michigan State loves Donovan Warren, the kid from New Jersey, and the kid from Akron Buckville. You're asking me who do I think it's going to be? I don't have a good answer for that right now. I'm sorry. Gosh, I hate to be weak sauce and not give a prediction. I don't have a strong feeling on it. I have a good feeling it's going to be one of those guys, though. Warren, Esteem, Diggs, Young. I think it's going to be one of those guys. So, who do I think it's going to be? Someone down here posted today also about Donovan Warren. I'll get to that right now. I can't find it. Somebody asked me, what are the chances? What are Michigan State's chances with Donovan Warren? Donovan Warren, the number 2 player in the state of Michigan from West Bloomfield. Excellent, explosive running back. Budden had his Instagram live a couple of days ago. Actually, was it yesterday? And he mentioned that Edwards is not going to Michigan. I've heard since then, and we posted this on the Underground Bunker message board, that Edwards called Harbaugh and said, hey, that's not true. I still like Michigan. So that was, I don't want to say too inside baseball or out of context or what. I mean, Budden said it, but all that I can tell you about that is that Warren that's not exactly the truth. Michigan is still in there. For a long time, Michigan was seen as the leader for Warren. I'm sorry, Donovan Edwards. I'm sorry, thank you. It is the wine. I smell it and that's what happens. Donovan Edwards. Where did I get Warren from? Yeah, Donovan Warren played at Michigan. cornerback. I used to call Benny Fowler Benny Cunningham all the time. What are some of my other ones? So anyway, maybe I'll edit that out. That's my second foul. I'm going to foul out tonight. Donovan Edwards. Michigan was seen as a leader for a long time. I still think they're in there. I do think what Budden says has a little kernel of truth to it, but not entirely. I think Michigan might be slipping a little bit with him. I'm still going to say Michigan 35%. I'll say Michigan 30%, and I'm going to say the field 35%. So I got Michigan State at 30 and climbing is what I've got on that one. Let's go to the chat area. Let's see if I can screw this thing up any more than I already have. Appreciate the patience that you're all showing with me. Appreciate that. Tremendous patience. Drippy is the first one here. Says, let's go. The Untitled Beer Ranking Show. Always here, always representing. We appreciate having him here. We appreciate the Untitled Beer Ranking Show. It's a lot of fun. I encourage people to go check that out. If I remember, I'll mention it in the comments afterward. Kenneth Roberts says, everyone please go and like this video. It helps support SpartanMag. Go green. Thanks a lot, Kenneth Roberts. Appreciate that. Rob South is here. Good to see Rob South. MJ says, Jim, do you think Peyton Thorne is going to be the next Michigan State quarterback? You know, that's a question that I've got on the mailbag questions. One or two people asked about that. Everybody wants to know who the quarterback is. I tell you what, even the coaches don't know who the quarterback is. They've not seen these guys play, haven't seen them practice. Do I think Peyton Thorne's going to be the next quarterback? You know, I didn't see him practice last year. The coaches watched him practice. I've seen high school film on him. I've heard he looked good in practice. I heard Brad Salem really liked him, favored him over Rocky. I heard Dantonio was leaning more toward Rocky going into the spring, if there had been a spring. So that doesn't mean anything. Not a surprise there. Dantonio likes to err on the side of experience. New coaches, could you see them going with a freshman? If you start a freshman, is that a 4-year commitment? They're going to go with the best guy. It doesn't really matter. Freshman, does that give them a little bit more of, hey, we're just starting a freshman, give us time type of thing? Does that enter it? Not sure. I will make Thorne the favorite there for what it's worth. But it's kind of based on this. Thorne. I haven't seen him practice. Heard good things about him, though. Rocky Cavaluzzi says, Jim plug SpartanMag as much as you like, but sometimes you take too long to get going. I appreciate it, Rocco. I hear what you're saying. Rob South, Old Tuck, MJ drinking Blanton neat. Drippy is drinking water. I'm disappointing in Drippy. With a name like Drippy, should be drinking more. Tyler Miller, hit that subscribed on YouTube and then the like button as well for SpartanMag. Thank you. Rocco says Theoday or Thorne. Who do you like? I don't hate Thorne. I don't hate either one of them. Which one do I like? Day's a better athlete than you think. Thorne can run around and make things happen. I'm disappointed Theoday didn't get more of a chance in some of those mop-up situations. What was the game? Was it the Wisconsin game when he went in there and botched up a reverse pivot and they took him out? All right, Bjorn Charlie says bring out the beverage, which I did. Got about 5 more minutes on this. This is robust. Smelling, sorry about this. It's probably gross. You guys hear me breathing like that. This nose is like a vacuum. You guys would be grossed out by that. You guys would be amazed. I'm gathering notes of vanilla in there, which I think is French oak. Am I right? I'm not a connoisseur by any means, but I told you about the Niagara trip of the nose a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to get into that. You can look it up 2 weeks ago. All right. Thorne for sure, says MJ. Tyler Miller with a thumbs up. That was on the audio. Thank you. No questions yet. German Minhas says, just wanted to give you some props on your Recruiting Rap podcast. Thank you. Not only is the content of the pod exactly what we're looking for, but the quality of sound as well. Awesome, Mike. Thanks. We've been working on the audio. Audio is important. That's why we have this thing. I don't want to talk just to the phone. We want better microphone, better audio, and we're looking to improve those things and improve some things for you guys as well. I had to put Ushan in timeout there. I don't know what he was trying to do there. Those consecutive tweets that he had, or those posts. All right. Rocco says, how many years would you shed if Lombardi is under center this fall or winter? Meaning like how many years of my life would be shortened with Rocky Lombardi? Rocco, I got to say, with a name like Rocco Cafaluzzi, and I can say that because I got a name like Comparoni with a nose like this, and you're all on Rocky Lombardi, that's not too cool. Come on, man. Cafaluzzi talking about the DeMatha kid now. Oh, that was in response to the question from, I think it was it Marlowe, about which recruit would benefit the most. Yes, it was Marlowe. Would benefit the most from the t-shirt camps. You are saying the kid from DeMatha, Booth, the corner. You know, I think he looks okay. His junior film. I'm not sure. I purposely didn't list him. That'd be one that I'm not sure would have a chance to knock louder on upper 3-star categorization or 4-star. I think he looks pretty good. The other guys I think look a little better. Drippy says the Texas QB, Hampton Fay. I agree with that. No questions yet. Depend says, if you like this format, pass the word. The power of referrals to add subscribers to this format will assure Spartan fans of this continued excellent coverage and inside information from Comparoni. Thank you. Appreciate that, Deep End. Jesse Adams, will this staff stick with a 2-back rotation in Collins and Williams? Elijah Collins, Anthony Williams. If so, what will Connor Hayward's role be this year? I just hope they don't do the hot hand like the last staff. All right, Jesse Adams bringing it strong. Appreciate that. The hot hand thing, I think you'll see most coaches go with the hot hand unless they've got like a definite Herschel Walker, bell cow, feature back, feed the rock 30 times a game guy. I don't think Collins or Williams are in that category. So I think from game to game, the hot back thing, these coaches I don't think have come out and said it, but I suspect they'll do that. I think you're going to be disappointed, but I think if you were a fan of pretty much any team in the country, you would be disappointed because most teams do that. You can correct me on that if you want. I mean, you know, like the best, you know, I mean, you look, you know, like Etienne at Clemson or Swift at Georgia or Dobbins at Ohio State. I mean, the best of the best, those guys get the rock every time. I mean, these guys are not, you know, Collins and Williams are not in that category. Who do I think? You ask, will they stick with the 2-back rotation? Yeah, I think they will. You know, last year at Colorado, they had a different running backs coach. Who was it? It was the guy that was a star running back at Colorado for a lot of years. Tucker did not bring him with him, brought Piegler with him, elevated him to running backs coach. I think that they will go with a 2-back system, and if it's just 2 backs, you're asking what will Hayward do? You saw some film of Hayward this week, really working hard. Looks like there's no more. Yeah, Darian Hagan at Colorado. Thanks, Chris. You know, social distancing is a little bit loose in Georgia these days, and Hayward out there working, serious about it, posted it, proud of his post, proud that he's working, as he should be. Not a guy that's always had great vision, you guys know that. Had a little bit of a fumbling problem too. Not a guy that was a natural running back. He's got good hands, was like a quarterback and wide receiver in high school. 6 feet tall, so I'm not sure he translates well to an H-back position. With his hands and an interesting frame and good initial quickness, it seems like he should be able to help somewhere. If they had spring practice, any chance he would have tried linebacker? I don't know. I think Michigan State is a little bit low on linebackers. Could he have done it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that he couldn't do it. You know, so Hayward, what he rushed for 500 yards as a freshman a couple of years ago. I still think Collins and Williams have more upside than he does. He's going to be working for that position and that job, but if he comes back and beats them out, I'll be impressed. I'm not necessarily anticipating that that's going to happen. Cape May, the CM3, the buoy, is the logo for this particular one. Let's take a look, see what we got here. Wait. That's good. Velvety. Rich tannins. Strong fruit. Enjoyable. It's a crowd pleaser. It's a crowd pleaser. Cape May Winery. If you are a New York City, Michigan State fan, check it out. Like I said last week, I've been down that way a little bit. Not on that side of the Delaware Bay. I've been on the other side of the Delaware Bay. Over there by Dewey Beach back in the old days, in the younger days. Beautiful part of the world. And someday, Simpson, I'm going to be out there. I'll let you know when I'm coming out there. Anyway, let's go to the next question. Sorry about the bad things I was saying about David Brandon. I guess that wasn't very nice of me. Sorry I got Donovan Edwards' name wrong also. It won't be the only time I've done that. Molson, I already did his question. Spartunes89 from Marshall, Michigan says, who do you think our second running back recruit will be? We've already been through that one. Now let's go to the new questions. And we are ahead of schedule. We might be able to get through this podcast in 90 minutes. Usually I go 2 hours. I think we might go less this time. Some of you have been asking for shorter podcasts and more of them. Maybe we can do that. All right, new question. This is from Alex from Los Angeles. I know nothing is certain until they take the field, but who do you believe wins the starting quarterback job? It sounds like the last staff was planning on Thorne. Well, Salem liked Thorne. Dantonio liked Lombardi heading into the season. That could have changed in September. MSU Spartan 777 from New Hudson, Michigan says, gun to head, who's your best guess on which quarterback will start the most games this coming season, assuming we have one? So that's a different question. He's not asking who's going to start. He's asking who will start the most games. That's a little bit different. I think that will be Peyton Thorne, but I'm not counting out Theo Day. One of the things that Jay Johnson said about Theo Day, I think it was Jay Johnson, talking about Theo Day, he says, hey, he's more athletic than you think. And I've been saying that. A lot of people have been saying that. And first of all, how does he know what we're thinking? But that's probably what he was thinking. He looks at a big guy that doesn't, is kind of big, kind of ambles out there. But when you see him go through the gears, he can go. I remember watching him in high school. He played against East Lansing High School over here for Divine Child. He played safety that day, and he can move. He tucked it and ran a few times. I don't know if he can do all the quarterback things. Even in high school, they didn't ask him to do much. I'm not sure if they thought that he had limitations or they just wanted to keep him in one lane, and that's it. I mean, you just make one read, that's it. You never saw them attempt, left hash, throw to the wide side of the field on an 18-yard out or anything like that. It was all very basic, staying in a lane. They won a lot of games. Didn't ask him to do a whole lot. So we saw him play, in 2 spring games? And last year in the spring game, he was about equal with Lombardi. So, at some point they'll have to make a decision, or that decision would come pretty quickly. Noah Kim is going to be on his way in also. And pretty soon, at this time next year, Michigan State's going to have, 5 scholarship guys in the program? Chances are 1 or 2 are going to leave. That's just the way quarterbacking is. So, gun to the head, who's my best guess on which quarterback will start the most games? I'm going to go Peyton Thorne. The unknown is undefeated, right? might not be fair to Rocky Lombardi. Is there a chance Lombardi can improve from what we've seen from him in the past? He won a couple of games as a redshirt freshman 2 years ago. Looked real good in the upset over Purdue, and it was an upset. Maybe not. Maybe Michigan State was favored, but Purdue had just upset Ohio State, had a good record and all those things. He was good that day, but Purdue played off zone. It was very easy reads, easy throws. Threw for what, 300 yards or so? Looked excellent that day. Good job managing the game and then some. But as you've seen since then, has had a really tough time replicating that. Good kid, good competitor, good athlete. Not the most natural thrower. And is he plateauing a little bit? Maybe so. But you can't count him out in terms of going home and trying to work on his craft and making a competition out of it this fall or whenever. MSU Polo from Rockford says, are there any current players that you were intrigued by as recruits that have not yet become starters or major contributors? It seems like under a new staff, there's always a guy or two who rise up from relative obscurity. For example, parentheses, wide receiver Devin Thomas being the first one that comes to mind. He says, good point. When there's a new coaching staff, Big Movie has made this point also. When there's a new coaching staff, you'll see they'll come in clean slate, and they might be impressed with somebody that the previous staff had gotten tired of or whatever. It happens. So you're asking, any current players that you were intrigued by as recruits that have not yet become starters or major contributors? Yeah, I've got a list of players. Dominique Long is one. He's been a contributor in special teams. Nice frame, can fly, smart guy. What is he? Mechanical engineering major or something? Academic all Big Ten. Impressive kid. Change of direction, not always real good, but he can run. He's got to, as smart as he is in the classroom, he needs to show some same pageness on the football field. That happens sometimes. Sometimes the smartest kids in the classroom, you know what that's like. We've all played with guys that were 4.0 students. You get them on the court, get them on the field, and it's just not the same. Dominique Long, kind of like that. Not a bad way to be in life, by the way. Not a bad category to be in, all things considered, in terms of life things. Dominique Long, senior program guy. Harlan Barnett recruited him, so Barnett comes in, has a chance to work with him. It's my understanding Dominique Long was going to be penciled in as first string for the first practice in the spring at corner, having played safety for a couple of years. So Dominique Long is going to have a shot at it. At this time last year, I would have said, and I was saying, A.J.R. Curry. And even though he got injured and missed the first month or whatever it was, got on the field, looked like a starter, didn't look great, but he was just getting his feet wet. First time getting extended time was as a starting left tackle. For the most part, I felt did not look out of place at all. Pass protection was good. Pass protection might have been better than his run blocking. But getting his feet wet, our Curry had a breakthrough last year, so he's no longer in this category. I would look for Jacob Isaiah. I'm not predicting he'll make a breakthrough, but Jacob Isaiah is a guy that I kind of thought might have been knocking on the door for the playing group a little more loudly. I really liked his high school film. I thought he was underrated. I thought he should have been rated higher. I might prove to be wrong about that. But Jacob Isaiah got in some short yardage as a blocking back here and there. I think he's got a chance to... That's a player I was intrigued by as a recruit that has not yet been a contributor. I'd keep an eye on him. Do you count Kalen Gervin? Do you count him? He started against Ohio State last year, struggled, started due to injuries. Everybody knows he was the number one player in the state of Michigan when he was a high school senior. Redshirted a year, got on the field a little bit that year. Played a little bit last year, struggled. He's got some speed, not the biggest guy, not the blazing fastest guy. Now he's going to be coached by Barnett. Maybe you'll see Gervin gain some traction and take it up a notch. Some other guys that have not contributed yet that I'm not as high on. Diari Todd, Emmanuel Flowers, Christian Jackson. Jackson's gotten on the field a little bit. What did he play? About 12 snaps last year against Western Michigan. I almost want to go back and watch that game again and look at some of the players that were on the field that we never saw again, just so I can refresh my memory on where they were the last time they played in a meaningful setting, even if it was mop-up duty. Emmanuel Flowers, he's tried DB, wide receiver. Now he's back at safety. Tressel said he's excited with what he's seen with Flowers, but Tressel, he'll mention a lot of people to keep them enthused, so I'm not sure what to make of that. De'Ari Todd's been on the field in mop-up situations here and there in the spring games, not really showing a ton. I didn't love his high school film. Nothing against it, De'Ari. I know you're working hard. I'm just being a member of the media here. Hopefully no current players hopefully are watching this. If you're a current player watching this, turn it off, and always turn off all your Twitter when they're talking about sports. Turn off all the talk shows. Turn off the news. Don't read the newspapers. If you're a student athlete, don't listen to us. Nothing good can come from anything we're saying. If you're a fan, tune us in. After you graduate, come back, check us out. Like Dave Simpson, Tyrone Garland, Ron Armstrong, and others. Come back after you graduate. And then tell me where I'm wrong. Another guy I'm looking forward to seeing is Trayvon Morgan, the big wide receiver from Massillon, Ohio, was injured last year. The biggest wide receiver I've ever seen, with the possible exception of Marcus Waters. But had a huge fall senior season. He was elevated to 4-star status by Rivals.com late in his career. Had injuries throughout his high school career, injured as a freshman. Would have loved to have seen him in the green-white game. Just get out there, and I just want to see him run routes, even if he doesn't get a chance to catch the ball, but we didn't see that. I'm not predicting great things. I'm just intrigued by him. All right, MSU Paulo. Second question, if you have time, he says. Are there any seniors that have a good argument for applying for an extra year of eligibility? I believe that A.J. Arcuri sat out for nearly a full year at some point, and it would be great to get him back after next year. Yeah, I think Arcuri can do that, and Mark Staten said that that would probably be something that they would pursue. So we've not had a chance to talk to players in a long time, but I anticipate that being the case. As far as others go, no, Josiah Scott would have been in that category if he had come back and if he hadn't played in the Red Box Bowl, but his plan all along was to go pro early. But I can't think of any others. There's been a punter that's been hurt here and there. I'm not sure how much they want to hang on to all those guys. Don't know. Let's go back over here to the chat area for questions over here. Go ahead and post your questions here. We appreciate the positive feedback as well. Chris Trainham says, hot hand drove me nuts too. I don't think anyone will know Jesse Adams until practice reconvenes. Depend says, Corey said today that because of the more sophisticated offense in the South, Southeast, Southwest, and West than traditional Midwest high school offenses, create more flexible linebackers and safeties. True? I'd say so. Especially in Texas, everything, especially the 7-on-7 seasons that you see in Texas and Florida in the spring. And then in Texas, it's all spread. And you see more of that in other parts of the country. So that creates more pass defense flexibility with linebackers. Yeah, I think that's true. I'm trying to think of certain examples. The antithesis of that, someone like Antoine Simmons came to Michigan State from Ann Arbor. I got his name right, correct? Right? Antoine Simmons was a kind of a run thumper inside type of guy, but he's turned out to be a really good pass defender. Would not have known that based on what he was required to do in high school in the cold Michigan high school season. But yeah, that's true. So the question is, can they play the run? If they're flexible to play pass defense as a safety and a linebacker, okay, now can they play the run? Budden can play the run. Physical, long arms. I like the way Hit and Shed talked about that in the podcast last night. Good with the pass rush, too. Good with the pass rush. Jesse Adams at Chris Trainham. I hated that so much. The run backs could not get in a rhythm. Talking about the hot back. Well, the rotating backs, they're looking for a hot back sometimes. So if someone had gotten into a rhythm, so I hear what you're saying, to pick one back and give him a lot of carries until he gets into a rhythm. It's one way to look at it. Or if you're looking at Collins and he's gaining 2, gaining 3, gaining 2, gaining 3, before long, you're going to be saying, put Collins in the damn game. So you're kind of, if the blocking's not great and you don't have a threat to throw it or receive it, can create problems for the run game. And pretty soon, sometimes, nobody's running the ball well. So I know that some of you get upset about that. Sometimes I'm out of touch, but I never, maybe I'm in the minority here, but of all the problems last year, I never thought, it never struck me, it never occurred to me that they weren't sticking with one running back long enough. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm out to lunch. I barely got Donovan Warren's name right. Edwards, sorry. Cartero 917 says, what are we hearing about Jamari Budden? Sorry if I already asked, just got here. Budden, I think that, he mentioned on his Instagram Live yesterday that Michigan's no longer in the picture. Michigan sensed that they were falling out of the top spot, falling behind. So it's my understanding they posted him up and said, hey, do you want to commit to us now? If not, we're out. Not in so many words, but that was what was communicated. He wasn't ready to commit to Michigan, so Michigan's out. And Budden said as much on Instagram Live yesterday, saying Michigan doesn't want me anymore. So that seems to be the case. So that's good news for Michigan State. I think Michigan could have stayed and fought and maybe fought back and gotten him. I don't know. Penn State's still involved. But you're asking, what are we hearing about Jamari Budden? I think Michigan State has rapidly gained ground and coming around the clubhouse turn. If he's that close to making a decision, I would say in the next 5 weeks, the fastest horse right now is Michigan State in that recruitment right now. MM Drippy says, Budden definitely coming to Michigan State. MM Drippy might be right. Chris Trinum says, Justin Williams from Florida wasn't so great under Coach D. The corner, never did much. Matt Calapina says, McGarrett King's from Florida. Yes, he was. And had a big punt return in the Rose Bowl. Remember that? A lot of talent. Was a little bit flaky with the disciplinary stuff. He lost his number once or twice. Super secret suspensions once or twice, I think. So, but McGarrett King's excellent hands, playmaker, came in the same class as Connor Cook, I think. But yeah, he was from Florida. Didn't tag up and go back many more times after that, but he was a good, solid player. Jesse Adams, will this staff use 2 tight ends in their offense? I've watched some Colorado games, and they only use 1 tight end, but they will use Gillison and Dotson the same amount. Will they use them the same amount? Love these videos. Keep up the hard work. Thanks, Jesse. I would disagree with you with that. When I watch Colorado, they do, I think, a fair amount of 2 tight ends. Not a lot of teams in the country do 2 tight ends. Iowa does. Some games Michigan does. Wisconsin, of course, does. But you don't see a lot of 2 tight ends. Here and there, some teams do. I thought Colorado did it more than most teams do. Michigan State under Dantonio, when they had tight ends, would do it. Michigan State under Jay Johnson, they want to use the tight ends. Jay Johnson loves the tight ends, loves to utilize it. That's going to be a staple if and when they get enough tight ends to make it work. The unique thing that I saw with Colorado last year, sometimes the tight end would not be outside the tackle. Sometimes he'd be inside the tackle. Like in the B gap between the guard and the tackle, set back like an H-back, but operating from there. Sometimes with a wham block, sometimes on short release passes. But they were doing some unique things utilizing the tight ends. Yeah, I think they'd like to use 2 tight ends. They need to get 2 capable tight ends. Dotson needs to regain health and show he can do it. We know that he's slippery getting up the field. He's got to block better. Gillison's got to block better. Gillison has to show right now during quarantine that he's serious about the playbook and getting in shape and maxing out himself physically. He's got ability, had a breakout game in the bowl game, needs to add to that and remain inspired at this time when he does not have a coach in the room with him. That's going to be something Gillison needs to do. Detroit Spartan says the hot back was the running back in rhythm, which led to both Collins and Langford becoming starters. Eli Collins. Yeah, Langford and also Le'Veon Bell beating out Edwin Baker. So there's times when the hot back theory has yielded the more talented, better player. Most coaches are looking for a hot back. And if someone's getting stops 10 times in a row, they'll try another running back because maybe he'll see something the other running back isn't seeing, among other things. Boom, Cape May in the house. Chris, thanks, Drippy Comp. Drinking straight gas. Not quite. I used to be pretty good at drinking. Used to be pretty good. I'm not very good at it anymore. Just not very good at it anymore. So don't expect much. Dude, if I drank that, you think I messed up the Donovan Warren name? Donovan Edwards? We should do that as an experiment. How bad will it get? I like that. That's a big time wine. Thank you, Dave Simpson, for sending that. And your whole family. And the good people at Cape May. Thank you for that. Brian V. I believe Larice Nelson was from Fort Lauderdale. Good point. Larice Nelson was not just an 11th hour recruit. He was the 11th hour and 59-minute recruit. Interesting guy. I'm not sure I've ever interviewed somebody that was more happy to get that scholarship offer and more excited to sign on the morning of signing day. Because the night before, he flat out didn't have many options. I mean, I don't even think the directionals in Florida. He would be working at Walmart. You know what I'm saying? He was, and I don't mean that disparagingly. He didn't have many other options. And right up until the end, Michigan State liked him as a kid, liked some of his workout video. They were in on some other guys. Remember, Michigan State was beaten out by, South Alabama for a Florida wide receiver right at the last minute, so they went with Nelson. Nelson came in, made some contributions early in his career. Had some big catches in the upset at Penn State 2 years ago. Probably would not have beaten Penn State without a couple of plays from Larice Nelson that day. Didn't get on the field as much last year. New coaching staff. Might be hard. He's got one more year to do some more things. But he's been here. He stuck it out. Hopefully he's making progress toward that degree. I'm happy for that guy. And I imagine Spartan for life. And that's going to be a good story, I think, how that one ends. Drippy. Only drink water and dabble into Kool-Aid. Drippy making some funnies over here. Chris Trainham says, gotcha. Get the electric one, comp. Not sure what that means. Drippy. We're getting a lot of posts here. What we're going to need to do is highlight these so I can get through them quicker or better. I'm not sure if you like me going through these or not. Drippy says, check out my boy Caleb Melton, Elk Rapids, Michigan. I'm trying to push him hard to work to go to Michigan State. All right, Elk Rapids. Elk Rapids has that counterculture parade up there, right? All right, between Caleb Melton and the counterculture parade in Elk Rapids and celebrate Saugatuck Wine Glass, Lake Michigan is going to move up to, nope, not quite. They're still number 2. I still have Lake Huron number 1. But I'm going to look him up. Remind me if I forget Caleb Melton. There was a kid from Alpena a couple of years ago that I really liked. I liked his film. He showed up and broad jumped 10 feet, which is no joke. And I went back and looked at his film, looked good, and he ended up signing with Central Michigan. we didn't do a top 25 last year, top 25 and the 25th, just because that's 40 hours of work to do that thing, in order to do it right. And there's just more work to do in the month of December, and I couldn't do it. I apologize. But I would have had that kid from Alpena in the top 25 the year before. So, Drippy, your boy from Elk Rapids, he's on my radar now. Just like that kid from Alpena last year. I'm going to be looking for him. Elk Rapids. Elk Rapids. What's the mascot at Elk Rapids? Are they the elk? Are they the herd? The Elk Rapids herd? The Elk Rapids Stags? Somebody's the Stags. Who's the Stags? Is Elk Rapids in the Jack Pine Conference? All right. I'm not sure. Love my up north high school football. Drippy says, I think he led the state in sacks in his sophomore class. Okay. Seth Foreman at MJ. Love Blanton's. It's Jesse Adams at Detroit Spartan. They would use London too much. Then they kept the better backs on the side, like LJ Scott and Holmes, and they were cold coming back for one series. And if they didn't gain yards, okay, fair point. Jesse Adams, they were back on the sideline. Gotcha. Matt Colapina Comp, can we get the Vernon Carey story that you said you would give us back when he committed to Duke? It's not that big of a deal, and I'm going to wait until after one or two more commitments this year. And it's not a huge revelation. It's not like it was told in secret to a visionary who told the Pope, who wrote it down and kept it secret for 75 years. It's nothing that great. So, but it was a philosophical change. Nothing cheating or anything like that. No drama. Just a crossroads. Chris Trinum says, insert crying Coach K meme. All right. Detroit Spartan. There's always more to the story. LJ had major attitude issues and flat out refused to play at times. And when Holmes ran hard, they played him. It's a good point also. And LJ Scott, you go back and look at that Big Ten championship game against Iowa, specifically that game-winning drive. I mean, that was on the offensive line, of course, but LJ Scott on his back, on his shoulders, some of those short yardage conversions of his, great heart, determination, ability, was a big-time recruit, 4-star running back, chose Michigan State over Ohio State. At that point, you would have thought stardom for that guy, like 1,000 yards as a sophomore, 1,000 yards as a junior, never cracked 1,000 yards. Like Detroit Spartan says, LJ Scott, nothing against him as a kid, but not sure he always had that pilot light really burning as bright as it needed to. A little foggy, a little flaky here and there. I mean, he had some situations. I'm not going to rib the kid, but had ability and I don't want to say he could have been better than he was. That might not be fair. I mean, football's a tough gig, but I agree with what Detroit Spartan says about attitude issues. I don't know if attitude issues might be too strong. Focus issues, maybe. Always seemed to be a smiling, agreeable type of kid. So I'm not saying he's like a bad apple type, but I'm not sure he loved football. Not sure he was driven to be as good as he could have been. How's that? Mall 286, also known as CJ, and he's repping the Lots Down part of South Philly by way of Bolingbrook, Illinois. Guy's got 2 names and 2 hometowns. Mall says, thoughts on the optics of Purdue basketball this week. Harms transferring to Brigham Young a couple of weeks ago. Nogel Eastern entering the transfer portal, and then a day later, or 2 days later, committing to Michigan. Which makes it sound like that Michigan deal was already in motion, doesn't it? I don't think they were tampering. They wouldn't tamper, would they? Anyway, Nogel Eastern, from what I hear, is a good kid also. Strange that he would want to sit for a year to play a year at this stage in your career. For a guy that has flirted with the NBA draft a few times, someone who's flirted with joined the NBA draft has tested the waters and pulled his name out, I think once or twice. Someone who's done that is willing to sit a year? Well, that's his prerogative. And if they change that rule where you get one transfer, which I think, doesn't matter to me. I'm not a coach. I don't care. But in a situation like an upperclassman, you can see where it would help the kid. It would help the player. Because late in your career, for the reasons I just mentioned, you would never want to transfer, because if you think you're a pro and having to sit out, that's counterintuitive, counterproductive. But for him to sacrifice a year to transfer, was it really that bad? Mediocre shooter. I know that Painter was upset about it on some talk shows. I'm sure you saw it. I'd probably be upset too. Could he have handled it better? Probably so, but he was just being real, being himself, probably dialed back what he really wanted to say. He was frustrated because, and I posted this on the board yesterday, he thinks this decision is not the best decision for Eastern and not the best decision for him, the painter, the coach, or the program, or the painter, or the candlestick maker. So he's frustrated because he thinks a shaky, grass is greener decision is going to take everyone down a notch. So he was ticked off about it. When Harms announced he was entering the portal, I was talking to a Michigan State assistant coach, and he said, I said, man, were you surprised? He goes, man, it's hard for a kid to play anywhere for 4 years this day and age, much less 5 if you're redshirt. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, look, it's hard for guys to keep them happy and to keep all the people out of their ear and everything else. It's just hard. Michigan State's not had that trouble lately. They've had very few transfers over the years, and Michigan, people negative recruit against Tom Izzo. About how demonstrative he is on the sideline, right? We see that all the time. The Aaron Henry situation. But as much as some media and the cameras accentuate that part of it, and as much as colleges recruit against that, we're not seeing many people in a hurry to leave the Michigan State program. Seeing guys with decreased playing time that are staying. So they like something about it. And I know what it is. I see Izzo in practice. He's hard on the guys. But he puts their arms around them. He puts his arm around them, makes them like it, makes them believe that he's on them for their own good and the greater good of the whole team. And they get it. And 99% of the guys get it. And it ends up working out. And when a guy's getting 2 down, he'll build them back up. He's cognizant of what's going on. Dane Fife with an interesting tweet today. After the Nogel Eastern thing, he said, coaches, parents, I think it's time we have to start listening more, or something like that. And then he went on to say something else that made it sound like, I don't want to say what the rest of it sounded like, but that's a noble concept, to listen more. Basically, that's the truth. In this day and age, they need to tune in more to the players, because in the old days, you could just kick them down, kick them, and then they might eventually transfer. Now it's a lot easier for them to transfer. If the rule changes and they get immediate eligibility, you're darn right coaches are going to have to listen more. Are they going to have to kid gloves it more? Is it going to lead to more wussification? Probably. But, that they talk about managing a roster these days. That's going to be part of it. Managing the portal. Keeping your guys, keeping their pillows fluffed, as Mark Staten used to say. And if you're Michigan State, you've had, let's just, for instance, throw out Marcus Bingham. You've had him for 2 years. Has great ability, great potential. Someone that you suggested when he was a freshman that you need to redshirt. He didn't want a redshirt. Status thing. Didn't play much. Burned the year. Second year, didn't get a lot of playing time. The stretch 4 thing, shot a little bit, then was discouraged from shooting because he wasn't making any of them. And still has that upside, but trying to gain strength. Now he's at home. It's quarantine. He's not going to be adding any strength right now. Good kid, likes it. But you don't know who's in his ear. A kid, frankly, could use a red shirt. So you're a coach. You have your ear to the ground. You want to keep developing him because you believe in him. You like him. But guys get out of sight. You don't know. I'm not saying that's happening. But these are the things that coaches worry about. And they have to worry about. That's part of managing the roster. So the optics, it's strange to see people wanting to leave. You know, people blame Michigan, they accuse Michigan State of being an unsavory place to play with a tough coach and all those things. Well, now Purdue has a couple guys leave. Michigan's had some guys leave. Michigan State will have some guys leave too, I would imagine, at some point. But as of right now, it's crowded and nobody's asking to leave. And they asked some players, you know, how you doing? And before the quarantine, everything was good. And man, that team finished the season pretty well in March, didn't they? All right. And also, Maul says, crack the New Jersey wine with the Maggers tonight. So thank you. He on the message board, he said, go ahead and have at it. Trying to get some other notes of other things. If I had more time to focus on it, but that'd be bad. That'd be bad video if I just sat here and just hit it 5 or 6 times and just really try to tell you what was going on. You don't want to hear that anyway. But I tell you what, if I drink a little bit more of this, I am a lightweight. You'd be ashamed. I'm not a lightweight. I'm not even a featherweight. I'm a flyweight. Wasn't always that way, but past my prime. Hayden from Lake Odessa. All right, that's the one we talked about. What chances would you give Donovan Edwards? I already went through that one. I go 30% Michigan State, 35% Michigan, 35% Field. Sparty from Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Hey, Jim, thanks for all you do. Thank you. Question regarding Coach D's staff. I get this question all the time. I don't understand the fascination with this. He says, do you know if any of the former coaches have found new jobs? I heard Coach Samuel is now at UNLV. True. Any others? Do you expect Coach D to be at the games, assuming they are played? That's a good question. Other coaches haven't heard. I'd heard some things with Brad Salem, potentially as an analyst somewhere. But at the time that changeover happened, a lot of the other staffs were already full. So there's not a lot of job openings out there for assistant coaches. And if there had been analyst jobs, right now is not a good time to get an analyst job because everybody is tightening the belt. Everybody's reducing budget, so it's a bad time to be looking for a job right now. Next year, not sure. I know that Mark Staten was going to be involved. Was it? Yeah, it's today. I think I missed it. There was an offensive line webinar today. I signed up for it, but maybe I can go back and watch it. I'm not sure. It was like the coach from Northwestern and a former player for Wisconsin and Staten. I don't know if he was going to be involved with it, but it was a charity dealing with former veterans that are looking to get into high school coaching, that type of thing, which I think is a great cause. And Staten was involved in that. But no, I've not heard anything about coaching jobs because there's not many openings right now. So no, I don't hear anything. And it is interesting, but I get that question all the time, and I don't understand why that's so interesting, but I guess it is. I guess I'm out of touch. Kenny Roberts from Parts Unknown says, hey, Comp, do you think Penn State has been gaining major ground for Andrell Anthony? Also, don't forget your beverage for tonight. It's another one telling me to remember this. Thank you for your encouragement and the peer pressure. Andrell Anthony, I talked to Corey Robinson about this. Corey Robinson got his ear to the ground in grand fashion when it comes to recruiting. Penn State, Andrell Anthony, Penn State likes him, but they like other guys also. And Michigan State likes Anthony. Michigan likes Anthony. I like Michigan State's chances. The part that I don't know is whether Andrell has any misgivings about staying close to home. Mel Tucker told him, we're keeping you close to home. We are not letting you out of East Lansing. And that's great and everything. But you know how it is. Sometimes if you grow up in a college town, sometimes you want to leave. It's the way it is sometimes. Kurt Carruthers from East Lansing many years ago. Andrell Anthony, Michigan State likes him. He went and met Mel Tucker just before the lockdown. As of right now, I like the way that Michigan State horse is running. I don't know if that decision's coming anytime soon, but you can see based on social media interactions, he has a good relationship with Budden. If they get Budden, I think it helps with Anthony. And Budden's going to help with some other guys also. One more question here with the mailbag. Then we'll go back to the chat, and that's going to be it. But the chat's pretty long here, and I might have to skim through them. We might need to get to a point where we just highlight them somehow. Jim from Golden, Colorado says, or this is Mile High from Golden, Colorado. Jim, thanks for all you do for the Spartan community. Thank you. Thanks to you. All right, we appreciate it. Hope family and friends are safe and healthy. They are, thank you, and hope it stays that way. Hope you all are also. Remember vitamin D. Take your vitamin D, ladies and gentlemen. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, which is maybe not the best place to go for higher knowledge, but he has some great guests on there. And he had someone on, a doctor that was in immunology or something. Anyway, her name was Rachel Patrick or something like that. Anyway, they were quoting a lot of stats. Vitamin D, very important for prevention with COVID-19. Some of the stats that came out from the Philippines, 95% of the people that died in the Philippines of COVID-19 were vitamin D deficient. And only 4% of those that they found that were, of all the people that were vitamin D sufficient, only 4% of those died. Vitamin D, an important part for some reason. I don't know. I'm sure Toxic Avenger knows why. Anyway, ramp up your vitamin D. Get out in the sun. Maybe that's why things are not so bad in Georgia and Florida. I'm not going to get political at all on this. I'm all about health. I'm not on either side of the aisle. I'm just hoping. I'm just on the football aisle. I want to see some football. I want people to be healthy. All right. Mile High says, basketball. Anything new? Basketball recruitings, Jaden Akins, Kobe Buffkin, Max Christie recruitments. Any feel for when any of these guys might make a decision? You know, there's a lot of smoke last week that Jaden Akins was close, and that was real, and it didn't happen. There's some smoke that Max Christie, you know, I don't know how close it would be, but Michigan State's been solid with him. Buffkin, you know, he had that virtual visit with Michigan. You know, Michigan State likes all three of those guys. It's my understanding there's room for two. So I'm guessing, you know, the first two that commit are the two they take. Is there a war room order that they prefer? Probably is, but they're keeping that close to the vest. They like those guys. Anything new? I'm not hearing anything new. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen a commitment in the last 8 days. So, that's a little bit new to me. That's it right there. I could have taken more questions, but I chopped it off right there. Let's go back over here to the chat area. Seth Foreman, Jim Bloodhound Comparoni. Not proud of it. Not proud of it. Detroit Spartan. For some reason, certain fans seem to think that Holmes was some sort of great running back, but that was never the case. He was solid, not great. I agree with that. Chris Trainham says, Edwards. Warren went to Michigan in the mid-2000s, 5-star from California. Man, Chris, you're right. I'm like a pinata on this now, because now I'm getting to the point where I was getting Donovan Edwards' name wrong. And then I was like, Donovan Warren? Who's Donovan Warren? Then I looked it up. Chris Trainham already had it for me. So now I'm reliving my third foul. Not my best moment. It won't be my last poor moment. Iowa, Chris Trainham says, last time they were this high was when they landed All-American crew from Illinois, Tony Moaki, Jake Christensen, Dan Doring, Ryan Bain from DeBrook. Check out the big brain on Chris, man. Just rattling them off. Chris Trainham, I'm not sure where they landed nationally, but that class was highly regarded. I'm going to look it up. 2005. Yeah, Milwaukee was a 4-star national top 50. Team rankings. All right. Sorry this is taking so long. But I've got to do it. I got to look it up. 2005 team rankings. Iowa, number 11. Number 11 in the country. I do not remember that. Check out the big brain on Chris. Way to go, Chris. Michigan State that year, ranked number 35 in the country. That's where, oh, that was John L's, one of his last years. Who do they have? Michigan State had Kerry Reed that year. Adam Decker. David Stanton. Remember him? Defensive tackle from California. Damon Williams with the big vertical jump. Javon Ringer, 2005. But check out the big brain on Chris Trainum, calling out off the top of his head the last great Iowa recruiting class, going back 16 years to do it. I look it up, sure as shice, number 11 class in the country. I don't remember that. We need to have Chris as a fact checker at SpartanMag.com. Good job. Brian V says, I see that Tagovailoa's younger brother transferred to Maryland. Any thoughts? I think he's going to be eligible immediately. I don't know. I've not looked at any of his film. Maryland is interesting. You know, they had the Josh Jackson kid last year, the transfer from Michigan. He had a couple of good moments early in the season. Then they went off the cliff. That seems to be the case with Loxley in a lot of ways. So, you know, Loxley did a great job as offensive coordinator at Illinois. Really good job. You know, they had spread. I don't know if they had tempo back then. When Ron Zook was the coach, went to the Rose Bowl, lost to USC, Mendenhall at running back, 2 back, and they were one of the first that had spread to run with some inside power, interior power. They did it well. I thought Loxley was pretty good at that back then. He's had his ups and downs since then. Head coach, tough job. But there are times when Loxley's offenses, I don't know what happened to him out of New Mexico State or wherever he was out there that went terrible. But with talent, they can do some interesting things. I'm not sure from top to bottom the whole program is going to be buttoned up and talented. And I don't know how good of a quarterback this is. You're asking for my thoughts. But I'm guessing it's someone with some talent. And he knew the Tagovailoa's when he was at Alabama. So taking him out there, plug and play with the things. It would not surprise me if this guy, Tagovailoa, can do the Loxley things better than Josh Jackson did. But nice influx of talent there. So good job by Maryland. Maryland having a good recruiting class right now. Chris saying Moaki and Doring were 5-star. Jesse Adams, Mac Brown in North Carolina is killing it, but fast forward to 6 months and they will be top 20 class, but not number 2 or 3, which they are now. I agree. Brian V, Kyrie young size, similar to Le'Veon Bell. I've not looked at him yet, the big kid they just offered from Ohio. I've not looked at his film yet. Gurman Minhas says, who the hell is Donovan Warren? That's my 4th foul. Now we're getting into the Donovan Warren part. Gunham says, I called him that on the podcast too. See, welcome to my brain. It's stuck in there, and it's gonna be in there for quite a while. Depend says, stop smelling the wine. All right. Not my best moment. Carter 917 says, what are we hearing on Rayshon Benny? Nothing new that I've heard, but Michigan State's right in there with him. I'm going to go through these quickly now. I've not heard anything. Gordon Tanona says, Alabama and South Georgia high schools have indoor practice facilities. Big difference in the quality of an athlete. I would agree with that. And also, football is big. Looks like we've got some funny business here. See, this is, I don't have. We've got some Beavis and Butthead juvenile activity. So let me see. Anyway, that's what happens when you put it out there on the on Twitter. You get some of the riffraff, but riffraff. I was a kid once. All right, I never did that though. Of course, we didn't have this. It's okay. Michael Maher says joining late, sipping on some Coppercraft from West Michigan. Sounds good. We condone that. Detroit Spartan says Theo was always a project based on size and athletic ability. Talking about Theo Day. Theo can run around a little bit, but project is a good word. And he's still a project. What are we hearing about Javon Grigsby? We talked about him in the recruiting wrap last night. It's sounding pretty good, I think, out of Louisiana. Good corner, 3-star, but he's better than that. Last night I said that if he were in the state of Michigan, he'd be a 4-star. He'd stand out more. But there's actually more 4-stars in Michigan than Louisiana this year for some reason. But it's looking good. I'm not sure what the timetable is right now, but stay tuned on that one. All right, coming down the home stretch now, Michael Maher says, it's obvious that this pandemic is having a major impact on this recruiting cycle. If things start getting back to normal this fall and winter, how much impact will that have on future cycles? You mean how much? This is what I'm going to do with that question. I think what's happened with the pandemic, recruiting-wise, has made FaceTime, Zoom meetings, virtual visits, that's the only way to recruit right now. And when things get back to normal, virtual visits will remain part of recruiting. In the past, it was phone calls. I think recruiting phone calls. Hey, Johnny, this is Coach Johnson. Maybe that'll happen casually, but I suspect more of them are going to be the FaceTime connections. That's going to be life recruiting before and after COVID. I think that's going to be the change. One of the changes. All right. Tequila shots tonight, then maybe some Centennial IPA, Drippy, Elk Rapids Elks, Kingsley Stags in the Lake Michigan Conference. Thank you. Thank you. Ghosty Boy giving us some more information. Brian V says, oh no, a Fab 5 member wouldn't cheat, would they? All right, Carter 917, have you heard anything about Imani Bates? Talked about that last week. And I've not gotten any more information on that. I can just tell you that from what I've heard, I need to hear from more though. I need to talk a little bit more about that, but it's my understanding that they think there's less of a chance now with the new rules. And I know you're going to say, hey, if he reclassifies, he'll be 17 next year and too young to go in the G League. I know that, and I mentioned that, but I didn't get a response on that one. But I'm just hearing that they don't think it's as good of a chance as they used to, that he'll play in college. I know. I don't have all the reasons why, and I don't understand all the reasons why. I can just tell you that's what's being said in their office. Detroit Spartan, he was a great recruiter at Illinois as well. Loxley, yeah. I think that's all the chat questions. Grigsby appears to be the real deal. I'm going to, let's see, do you agree with Whitmer? Until a vaccine is available, sports won't be played. Did she say that? I don't know if she said that. If she said that, that's interesting. Do I agree? Do I disagree? I'm not going to comment on that right now. I'll stay away from that. But anyway, I think that's all of them. And we are in under 100 minutes this time. I'd like to turn over a new leaf and have more of these. Thanks to Carter for 917 for saying great stream. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to you, Michigan State fans, for being a part of it. Okay, Brian V says, she says they won't be played with fans. Okay, I would assume that would have been the case anyway. But I'll stay out of those fights for right now. You guys don't care what I think about that stuff. You guys want to hear what I say about stupid things like Donovan Warren. I can't even get that right. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for being a Spartan Magger, those of you that subscribe at SpartanMag.com. If you're not a SpartanMag.com subscriber, get over there, check it out. You can become a subscriber. I think you can get a trial for a week or something like that. But definitely, if you become a subscriber right now, you get, I should have said this at the beginning, $49 of a Fanatics gift card, or gear, credit, $49 in free Fanatics gear if you become a SpartanMag.com subscriber. Today, I should have said that at the beginning, but I got a little bit of criticism today for talking too much Michigan State stuff and not getting straight into this stuff. Michigan State sports, great talking Spartan football and basketball and recruiting with Michigan State fans. It's always football season, even in the month of May. In the month of May, it's no different. We're always talking about recruiting, talking about the upcoming season, regardless of what happens with the COVID situation and the quarantine. May is still a time for talking season, and we enjoy doing that. Difference is we're not having the recruiting t-shirt camps this year, which are always fun. Instead of the camps, we have virtual tours and commitments. So one has replaced the other, and the new stream has been pretty interesting also. Is Michigan State going to be running out of slots pretty soon? Have to pump the brakes? I don't know, but it's fun watching. We will continue to watch it. Will there be news between this week and next week? Will we have another one of these in the meantime? We're working on it. We'll have something going on. Appreciate you guys checking us out. Appreciate you guys coming in East Lansing on a Friday night, spending a little bit of that time with me, or if you watch this throughout the course of the week, check out SpartanMag.com. Thanks for tuning in. Jim Comparoni, SpartanMag.com. You've been watching Spartan Mag Live.